So I want to be quick and painless, so I am filming in an odd position with it like against the windshield, but I'm doing a book on haul. I don't normally like these, but there are some books that have been on my shelves. Most of these actually I think I got for free, and I'm gonna hopefully go to a local used bookstore, give them, and then get some books for New Year's slash Christmas, and I'm super, super excited about this. So the books that I have, first of all, I have a bunch of these that I think I bought a year, maybe 2 years ago at a thrift store. I do really like looking at religions and stuff like that as a world building thing, but I don't think I'm ever going to read these, and they've just been sitting on my shelf. Like, they're nice black books, and the Studies in Contemporary Religion, the Unification Church, Oshu Randish, Bai, and the Church of Scientology. I also feel like these books might be more about becoming one of these religions, and I want to be more like, this is the history and how religions stuff develop, because that would be interesting from a world building point of view. The next one I have Memoirs of a Geisha. I bought this probably way back in February of 2018. I first found out the ways in which the guy collected the information and how it was really sketchy and stuff, and haven't had a desire to read it since, but it's just kind of been sitting on my shelf. And then this one's painless, because I just read it, and I honestly will confess that I thought this was a Black Canadian author who was writing about like race stuff, and it ends up being like a white guy talking about dystopians and stuff like that. Not that that means that it's not going to be an interesting book. It's just one of those books that I thought, like, I almost didn't pick up at the time, and then I did pick up, and it was $3. So I'm hoping that if I give it back, I will get also $3 and buy another book. So yeah, it's a book that I don't think I might never read, but it's not like on the top of my list to read. And then I have Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the original screenplay. We have a reason why we haven't got this. I got this from free from a friend who was giving it away several years ago. I didn't really ever plan on reading it, but I had a full Harry Potter series, so I was like, yeah, sure, I'll pick it up. This is another February 2018 book. I have heard nothing but like fairly terrible reviews about this and the way it deals with chronic illness. It's a book that I wanted to read, and it's been sitting there, and I've heard negative things, and I don't even read as much YA as I did at the time, so I don't think it's a book I'm ever going to read. And then we have Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This is a book that I was going to buddy read with from Cal from Retrieving Books, and he actually gave it to me to read, and I was going to annotate it, and then I was going to give it back to her, and I never read it, and then they were like, yeah, we don't want it back, it's bad. And I was like, okay. So I've kept it on for a really long time, and then I'm just going to pass it on to a thrift shop at this point. I don't know what this is. I'm just gonna keep this in there. And then we have the Amber Spyglass. I have two copies of this version. I have this copy that I had first, and then I have one that matches the rest of the series that I got at the same time. And I read the first two. I've never even finished this book. I read about half of it and got bored, and then have never gone back. So yeah, I definitely did not need two versions of this book. So I'm getting rid of it. And then we have this book by Joseph Boyden. I've actually bought two Joseph Boyden's books this year because I keep on forgetting that he's the guy who falsely claims to be Indigenous, and I don't really want his books. So yeah, I'm definitely going to get rid of this book. And I need to find When Jack, which I also have, that I bought for like $1. And I was like, why do I keep on buying this guy's name? Because I forget about his story. And I'm like, oh yeah, this is a book that I've heard is really good. And then I look up the author and I'm like, oh yeah, this is why I did want to read this book. Hello, so I've returned. I went to the bookstore. I got $24 in store credit. I was really, really happy. I didn't actually get all of them, so there were several that I did not actually get, and I will go and drop off at a thrift store or little free libraries, so I'm really, really excited for that. But I got 4 books, and all of them are books that I really, really wanted, so it made me incredibly happy. And also, I love this bookstore. It's called Second Look Books. It's in downtown Kitchener, and every time I've come in and gotten store credit, I've always had like $1 or 2 more than like what was the store credit, and I pulled out my credit card, and each time they'll be like, oh no, don't worry about it, call it even. And they always do it like they're like trying not to do that. I don't know, maybe they don't do it for every client, but like I think last time they were like, oh yeah, it's fine. And this guy was like, oh yeah, because you have such great reading taste, I'll give it to you. And I was like, oh, thank you for like the next $2 or $3 off. So I got some books that I was really excited for. There were several others that I really wanted that were more contemporary, but I thought these are books that I've been looking for a really long time on, and are not often in print or just harder to find and stuff. So I got really, really excited for this. And what I really, really want is House of Spirits, because for no reason that book is $40, and I always look at it and I'm like, I really, really want this book. Maybe it's only 28. It's one of those things where like I can't justify buying it. And I also really wanted Silence of the Portuguese because it was one of my last reads of 2022. I really, really loved it. And I couldn't even get it at Chapters. I was like, it's okay. I'm like annotating the heck out of this ebook and stuff like that, but I'll like do it and then I'll do a review. And I can't find it. And I'm like, this is like one of the most enduring books. Why is there no copies of it? So I was going through it, and it was just like Browning, 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 Browning. And I was like, yep, this is all Robert Browning. I will begin with talking about Evelina because this book is one of the books that inspired Jane Austen, and I love Jane Austen. I also really, really like 1700s fiction. Whenever I read stuff from this era, I really liked it, and I haven't read a lot. So I'm super excited because this is an era where like the novel is coming into piece. Everyone is kind of learning how to do narrative instead of poetry. It's very interesting. A lot of women are writing, but a lot of women are being scorned. Like that's where Northanger Abbey, which was originally written in the 1790s, has like a lot of people kind of ridiculing her and being made of like fluffiness and stuff. It is super, super fun to find this. Like I saw it and there was 2 copies because this one I guess has a little bit of scuff there, and I was like, it's $1.50 less than the other version, so that's the version I'm going for. I don't care, like I like this version and I like this copy, and I would love to get to this book. It is quite long, and as I've kind of been talking about it, I'm a very slow reader. Like it tends to take me a Jane Austen like several months of intense reading, like not every single day, but just like intense reading over and over again. So I would love to get to this. Yeah, maybe, but like it's the same as like my Jane Austen books, which has some beautiful time for reading and writing and all of that, and I'm super excited to read this. And then I found another classic I have been like looking for several years, and this is Like Water for Chocolate. I really, really enjoy Latin American books, and this one is one of the ones that's up there with Isabel Allende, and I've heard really, really good things. It has recipes. It's like, it's a monthly thing where we go through and each month there's a recipe and then we learn about her life, and it has family dynamics, and I used to work as a cook. I really, really love food, and I love family dynamics and stuff like that. It's actually fairly short and it's in translation, which I love. The reason I'm laughing is because on the back it just says, with more than 2 million copies sold, Like Water for Chocolate has taken place alongside other beloved first novels like The Joy Luck Club and How to Make an American Quilt as a treasured part of America literary memory. And like, I actually don't know how American Quilt is and who that author is, but my guess is that it is a white author, and The Joy Luck Club is an Asian author, and they're like, we're gonna try to say it's American, but we need like a diverse classic. We can't use another Latin American author because we don't have that many, so let's use an Asian author. And yeah, I've been wanting to read The Joy Luck Club. My library has like other Amy Tan books, but not that one, which also deeply bothers me. But I just love how it's like, yeah, these are polar opposite parts of the planet. Let's just compare them. They're not white. Anyways, maybe that's not what's happening. Maybe they have very similarity. Like I know the Joy Club deals with intergenerational things, but I believe that this takes place in Mexico, when the Joy Luck Club, I believe, is like about being a second generational and like the difference between like when you're a first generation and your daughter is a second generation, and how do you connect, and like all of those things, which I don't know, might be the themes in here, but it feels like it might be a stretch. Oh, beautiful tiling. Okay, this makes me so happy. So hopefully, again, I would love to get to all of these books this year. This is one that I saw and I was like, oh yes, this is where I'm gonna go. And this one's more for the aesthetic than anything else, and it's Confessions of an English Opium Eater by Thomas de Quincey, and this is published in 1821. And I have a thing where I go through and read scandalous books in the past. It's mostly just a thing in my heart that I do, and I also am trying to read through like a book of everything, and there isn't many books that are that popular from the early 1820s and stuff like that. So like, other than Jane Austen and Mary Shelley and like some Walter Scott, I can't find anything from this era. So like, I'm really, really happy to like find that. I actually don't know. I always get Walter Scott and Walter Raleigh mixed up. Walter Raleigh's earlier, right? And yeah, this one is first published in 1821 and then expanded in 1856. And I got it for $3. Again, there was like a $6 version that I wasn't going to buy, and then I found this one for $3 because I guess it's a less pretty version. And I was like, yes, absolutely. And I really like the line. This is the book that made me go over, but I was debating whether I wanted it or not. But I want to pick out the preface for you, and that's kind of what made me convinced that I wanted to read it. Okay, so it says, the original preface in the year of 1821. I here present you, courteous reader, with a record of a remarkable period of my life, and according to my application of it, I trust that it will prove not merely an interesting record, but in considerable degree instructive. In that hope it is that I have drawn up, and that must be my apology for breaking through those restraints of delicate reserve which for the most part intercept the public exposure of our own errors and infirmities. And I was like, yes, this sounds like it's going to be more introspective and thought-provoking. It's not just like, you know, added some opium, you know, or, oh, those sinners that are dying in the streets with the prostitutes. It doesn't sound like it's gonna be like any of those, maybe. A little thing over here in poem form, I guess, which I guess he's quoting Wordsworth, humbly to express a penitent loneliness. So yeah, I'm hoping this is gonna be good. This is probably going to be more a chipmunk book that I'm gonna read in many years to come. It is only 210 pages, but it's more gonna go on my thing of like, these are a classic book that is scandalous, that I think would be interesting. I was like checking out being like, yeah, this is just mostly feminist literature and then just drugs. You know, I have tried to disappoint my mother in all ways by, you know, going into deep drugs and sex through my feminist literature and drug literature from the 1820s. This is a book that I really hazard on because I really wanted the prettier newer version, but they didn't have the prettier newer version and I was like, I don't have money. So this is like, I really like the Oxford Wordsworth ones, especially like the Evelina copy, but you can tell that these ones have slightly darker print, which for my dyslexic thing is harder to read, but it's not that bad and it's still really easy to annotate. So like, I really wanted another version, but I'm like, this is not a commonly published book and I want to read it. And this is a book that I got through a recommendation of Books and Things. Katie read it for Victober, I believe, and recommended it, and I was like, I'm in love. Elizabeth Barrett Browning was a poet and a Victorian, and she traveled the world. She fell in love with another poet, and they had many love letters. When she published the Sonnets of Portuguese, she actually disguised itself. That's why it's called Portuguese. She wrote it, but was like, I'm just doing a translation of these somewhat steamy, somewhat very intimate poems, and they are really good and really contemporary. And yeah, this is about a young woman who is trying to be an author and a poet in the Victorian era. So it's like Aurora Leigh is the foremost example of a mid-19th century poem of contemporary life. The social panorama of this first novel extends from the slums of London to the upper class, ways in which she is transversing the social norms of the day and the way in which she wants to do this. And I've had a re-examination of her as a feminist poet and as a feminist because a lot of people, because she's known as a writer who is dedicated to love, is often said to be, oh, well, she only writes about love and love is not important. And I think that her power of being like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I feel, and I'm not ashamed to express who I am, is beautiful. And I'm really, really excited to read this, hopefully this year as well. It is 300 and some pages, but has a lot of notations and it is written in verse, so it will hopefully go a little bit quicker, but I really, really like her lines in the Sonnets of Portuguese, so I look forward to reading this. So these are my books that I bought for that. I'm really glad that I was able to give in some books that I was not as excited for, and I got store credit and stuff, and yeah, I hope that this represents my reading. I had the great joy of Monika from Dog-Eared Musings shouting me out, and she said something about like me liking old literature and old things, and I was like, oh yes, this is the person I have become. I didn't realize that. Like, I obviously love that I love classic books, but I was like, no, like I read across the board, and like I feel like I came in here like mostly reading fantasy and being like, I want to love classics, and then I look at my book hold and I'm like, yes. I've actually become this. Because when I started BookTube, I like bought classics, like I bought a bunch of Dickens and I bought a bunch of other things thinking that's what I wanted to be cool and stuff. And no, I ended up with like mostly forgotten books or like Latin American classics or this is about drug use in 1820s. Like that's just how I go. And I'm really interested in this. And yeah, I don't know, I still want to be a diverse reader in 2023 and like read across genre and read across things. I am enjoying becoming a somewhat random classic reader, even if I have not read many of the like most popular classic books. Like normally I look at the classic shelves and I'm like, I've read the random obscure work. It's whatever my library happens to have normally or whatever I get at a random thrift stop. So yeah, that's actually something I want to do this year. I want to do like random classics or interesting classics that I own, because I own a bunch of random classics that I've got at used bookstores. So happy reading and writing. I will see you later in this year, and tell me which book you have picked up lately. What like random collection of books you have that like may not even be good, but you're collecting them, or they're just niche in some way, like my scandalous books. And yeah, I will see you next time.